Hey friends, it's Raj back with you here. Not usually vlogging from the field, but today's a little different.
What we're gonna, say it again now.
Let's unpack the backpack, shall we? Yeah. Hope you're doing well. This is a different video. Obviously, we're on location. That gives us production value, right? So I have put together what I consider to be my ultimate mobile studio. I just wanted to show you one incarnation of this setup, because when I sat down to really define what the ultimate studio was going to mean for me, which is going to be different than what it means for you, but there really wasn't just one layout. There were several layouts depending on exactly what I was doing, what I was hoping to do, how long it was going to take me to do that, where I was. One ultimatum I gave myself was it had to be able to run on batteries alone, no AC, and that is what's happening right here. I'm going to show you what I have going on here, what kind of functionality it serves in this particular incarnation, maybe set up with some of the other options so you can see just how flexible this rig, this backpack studio is. Everything I'm using here today came out of either a single backpack or the 2 gig bags I was carrying in my right hand, so one bass and one guitar. The definition for mobile may be different for you. For me, it meant at very least I could carry everything in one trip. Let me show you what I got going on here. Here's our aerial view, and I'll go over all the things that you can see aside from the dirty RV floor and beautiful floral print here. So, of course, the brains of the operation is the new M1 MacBook Pro. This has 16 gigs of RAM, 1 terabyte of storage on board. Right behind the M1, you'll see this, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this right, but Chotec maybe battery. It's a 28,600 milliamp battery, I believe, and it is basically keeping the MacBook Pro's battery at 100% for quite some time. We'll see where we are at the end of this thing and how long it's taken me to get there. Right next to that, we have a Samsung T7 drive. Now, the internal drive on the MacBook Pro is faster than this T7 by quite a stretch, but this T7 has all my libraries on it. So right now it's got a couple different Superior Drummer libraries. It's got Keyscape and maybe a few other things. It's also somewhere I can dump sessions or video files or whatever else I might need to for operation later. Someone's pulling up with their RV. Hi, neighbors. Okay, back to it. Picture-in-picture time. So, one of the big things for me in my home studio is monitor real estate. I like having a place for everything. I don't like swapping windows around all the time. I like having windows for my plugins and for my different apps and all that stuff. I run 4 monitors typically. So for my mobile rig, I wanted some screen real estate. Now right now in this incarnation, I've got, you can see, this one extra 15-inch monitor. This is a 1080p monitor. This particular one's Lapao, which is a horribly awesome name. And it's connected straight to the machine via a USB-C cable. Now I do have, just behind the lapel, I've got this Lention, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but Lention USB-C hub, and it has a few USB-A connections. It's got a power-through connection, which is how I'm running the battery, the external battery into the MacBook Pro, and then it's also got a USB-C connection, which right now is hooked up to that Samsung T7 drive. I actually have a second 15-inch monitor that I can hook up to this rig. You may be saying, Raj, Apple only supports one monitor, and that's true. However, if you use a DisplayLink adapter, you can run at least another monitor. I haven't tried more than 2 externals on this, but those do have to be powered, so you actually lose 2 USB connections. Now, I can run a second hub on this, which I have done, and later on, I'll give you some numbers for those tests in terms of time. I did do a test with both monitors, streaming live, running a Logic session, and video, and Ecamm Live, and all that good stuff, but for this particular rig, which is more music-centric, I think one monitor ought to do us just fine. I'll scoot back here and show you. This is a Launch Key Mark III, the 37 key. Initially, I bought a 32 key micro key controller. I just didn't feel like I could play it, and I wasn't going to have any fun on it. So it's very strange to find a 37 key controller. I basically found a backpack that would fit this controller, and it's just barely fits, but it does fit. This controller isn't officially supported yet by Novation for the M1 Max, but I have mapped everything individually that I would typically use anyway. But for Logic, all of the transport controls are mapped. Of course, the keys work as the keys normally would. I'm using the pads to switch cameras and scenes in Ecamm Live, and then I can navigate through tracks and octaves and all that kind of good stuff that you'd normally see on a keyboard controller. The last thing that you can see here is the Focusrite interface. This is a Scarlett 2i2. It's the latest generation. 2 mic inputs, 1 set of monitor outputs plus your headphone outputs. Phantom power right now, powering this NT2 from Rode, which is part of our mobile rig. The only thing not part of our mobile rig is actually this shock mount. I've ordered the non-shock mount mic mount for this NT2, but it's not in yet. Just under this focus right here, we have another battery. That is powering this camera, which is a Canon M50. Right now I have the kit lens on there because it's smaller and it would fit into the hard case that I could then put into the backpack. All the cabling that you saw come out earlier, most of that stuff is not being used right now. Just a handful of cables actually connecting all this good stuff. I failed to mention the sustain pedal on here as well, and then I've got a 1/4-inch cable that's going actually over here to my right for guitar and bass and whatnot. And that's pretty much it. I've been going for maybe 15 or so minutes. Let's see if you can see this on the overhead cam. Where is it? There we go. I've still got all 4 lights on the external battery, and I am running at 100%. 100% on the Mac. I've got a small Logic session going right now. It's 1 instance of Superior Drummer, 1 instance of Keyscape, and one of their basses. I don't know, just something I did really quickly to show you that both of those instruments, Superior Drummer and Keyscape, are not yet ported over to the new architecture. So they're running the Rosetta to AU conversion, which actually shows up within Activity Monitor, and you can see what kind of hit the computer's taking because of that. And it's relatively substantial. But part of today is to see how long it'll last. How long can we go? You know, that's part of this thing. Obviously, I'll be editing this video, but right now I'm at 12 minutes recording into Ecamm Live. The whole rig was up and running about 10 minutes before that. So right now we've been running at about 22 minutes, thereabouts. The Mac's still at 100%. The battery's still showing 100%. So, you know, you make some compromises for space and for weight and for size. And, of course, depending on exactly what you're doing, I probably could have brought a third less than I brought in my backpack today for what I'm doing right now. But who knows what we'll do later. So I'll play a little bit of this Logic session. Again, just 3 tracks, but play along at home if you have your horn or your kazoo. So, again, not a big session, not something like the last video where I did the Avengers theme, but the fact that it's running a couple of Intel plugins, this mic is running through a track in this Logic session, that's how I am using it. One of the reasons for this rig for me would be to do remote location live streams and the like, and not have to worry about whether I can tap into power for a couple of hours or not. That's essentially this incarnation of this rig. So right now, the overhead camera that you're seeing is actually connected to the machine via NDI. So it's wireless going to Ecamm Live. And the way that I did that was by creating a hotspot to the computer. Now I'm interested to see if while I'm doing that, I can also get online. And if I can get online while I'm doing that, can I also stream all of this to, let's just say, Facebook for today? I'm in the middle of a RV storage lot. I have no Wi-Fi. I don't even know how many bars, but we're going to do a speed test and see just how slow this connection is that I currently have. Not very good. Not great. 5 megabits per second download. Let's see what the upload speed is. That'll actually be the thing that determines whether or not we can do any sort of stream on this. Oh, that's pretty terrible. Pretty bad. So basically no upload speed. That's kind of funny. That doesn't look like it's going to happen. We likely have 3.5, 4 hours at least in this particular setup. So I'm going to do a little recording. I'm going to set up a new Logic session and just do some silly stuff. I'll roll this camera the whole time to Ecamm Live, so we'll be recording in Logic, we'll be recording in Ecamm, and we'll see how she does. I'm going to cheat just a little bit on this track, actually, because I found in the back that we have a very high-quality Esteban acoustic guitar that was left in the rear lounge. No doubt purchased at some very seedy pawn shop on the road somewhere. All right, I'm going to let this run. We'll see what happens. rolling on another 100 miles before we... I haven't finished the song. I actually got further into it than I thought I would. And obviously the sun is setting. I don't have any lights in this vehicle other than the one that I brought. And the mosquitoes are starting to come out, even though it's cool out, which is not right. But here we are. I've been rolling for at least 2.5, probably edging up on 3 hours. Here's the Chotec. And I'm running at 3 lights still on this bad boy. So at least 51% of that battery left, keeping the MacBook Pro at 100%. That's pretty awesome in my book. And the whole time I've been working on this track, which is probably the better part of an hour now, which is something. I've been recording, so I'm bound to have an enormous video file here, even at 1080. I think that might be it for this incarnation. It's time to pack up the backpack. Yay!
Trying to find the perfect words to tell you how I feel. Rolling on through one more state line before I get some sleep. 300 miles to go, one more promise left to keep.